The suitcase was not even full. That was the thing she would remember later, not the darkness outside, not the cold air that hit her face when she opened the front door, not the sound of her own footsteps on the porch stairs. She would remember that the suitcase was not even full. 7 years. 7 years of a life built inside those walls. The cooking, the compromising, the swallowing of words that needed to be said. 7 years of telling herself this is normal. This is what love looks like. This is just how things are. And all of it, every piece of it, fit into one half-empty bag that she carried with one hand. She did not look back at the house. Not because she was not afraid. She was. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the handle. She did not look back because she knew, the way you know something in your bones before your mind catches up, that if she turned around and saw that light still on in the bedroom window, she would go back inside. And she could not go back inside. Not tonight, not anymore. So she walked down the driveway, past the mailbox with the broken latch she had asked to have fixed for 2 years, past the neighbor's rose bushes, past the streetlight that buzzed quietly in the dark. She walked, and she did not look back, and somewhere between that front door and the end of the street, she stopped being the woman she had been for 7 years, and started, without even knowing it yet, becoming herself again. Her name was Serena. Serena Mills. 34 years old. A woman who made lists, grocery lists, to-do lists, lists of books she wanted to read someday, lists of places she wanted to visit before she turned 40. She kept them in a small green notebook she carried everywhere, the cover soft and worn from years of being held. She had grown up in Asheville, North Carolina, where the mountains sat at the edge of every view, and the air in autumn smelled like wood smoke, and something sweet she could never quite name. Her mother had been a schoolteacher, patient, steady. A woman who believed that the right words at the right moment could change a person's whole direction. Her father had been a carpenter who built things slowly and carefully, always saying that anything worth having was worth the time it took to do properly. Serena had grown up believing both of those things. She was a middle school art teacher. Room 14, Asheville Central. She had painted the walls herself the summer before school started, a deep, warm yellow, because she wanted her students to walk in and feel like something good was possible. She kept jars of brushes on the windowsill and played soft music during free drawing time. And she knew, really knew, every single one of her 32 students, by name, by habit, by what made their faces light up. She was the kind of woman who brought soup to sick neighbors without being asked, who remembered birthdays, who stayed late after school events to help stack chairs without anyone noticing. She laughed easily, and when something was really funny, she covered her mouth with her hand like she was trying to keep the laugh in, which only made it louder. Before everything, she had been so completely, quietly alive. She had married Daniel when she was 27. He was charming and certain in a way that felt safe to her at the time. The way a solid wall feels safe when you are tired of standing alone. He had plans, opinions, direction. He knew what he wanted. She thought, at 27, that knowing what you wanted was the same thing as being good. She would spend the next 7 years learning the difference. The first year was good, genuinely good. They had a small house on Clement Street with a porch she loved and a backyard big enough for a garden she always planned to start. Daniel cooked on weekends, elaborate meals that took hours, that left every pot dirty, that he was proud of in a way she found endearing. They watched old films on Friday nights. They talked about the future the way young couples do, lightly, happily, like the future was a room they were decorating together. She remembered being happy. She needed to hold on to that later, when things got harder. The fact that there had been real happiness at the beginning. It made everything more complicated, and more painful, and more true. The changes came slowly. That was the nature of them, not a single dramatic moment. Not one fight that changed everything. Just a slow dimming. Like a light turned down 1 degree at a time. so gradually that you forget what full brightness looked like. It started with small things. Daniel did not like her staying late at school. Not in an angry way, not at first. Just a phone call at 5 o'clock. "Where are you? I thought you'd be home by now," said with enough worry in his voice that she felt guilty, not questioned. She started leaving earlier. He did not like her green notebook. Called it childish, not cruelly, just casually, the way you'd say something you assumed everyone agreed with. "You're 30 years old, Serena, carrying around a little girl's diary." She laughed it off. She put the notebook in a drawer. She stopped making lists. He had opinions about her friends, particularly about her closest friend, a woman named Deb, who was funny and outspoken and deeply loyal. Deb made Serena laugh until she cried. Deb also, Daniel said, was a bad influence. "She's always stirring things up. She makes you restless. You're different after you spend time with her." Serena started seeing Deb less, then rarely, then almost not at all. She did not see it happening. That was the cruelest part. Each thing, alone, felt small enough to give. Each compromise felt like love, like she was choosing the relationship, choosing peace, choosing him. No single moment felt like a loss. It was only when she looked back, much later, that she would see all those small losses lined up together and understand what they had added up to. By the third year, she had stopped painting at home. Daniel found the smell of paint irritating. By the fourth year, she no longer called her mother every Sunday. Daniel said she was too dependent on her family. By the fifth year, she walked quietly through her own house. She had learned, without being taught, exactly how loud to close a cabinet, how carefully to choose her words, how to read his mood from the moment she heard his key in the door and adjust herself accordingly. She had become a woman who managed, who monitored, who made herself smaller in every room she stood in, except room 14 at Asheville Central, where she was still, somehow, fully herself. That room saved her in ways she would not understand until much later. The evening that broke something open in her was a Tuesday in March. One of her students, a quiet girl named Lily, 12 years old, with serious eyes and extraordinary talent, had won a regional art competition. Serena had entered Lily's work herself, had spent her own lunch breaks helping Lily refine it, had written the submission letter with genuine pride. The results came in during the school day. Serena called Daniel from the parking lot, so full of joy she could barely speak. "Lily won," she said. "She actually won. I'm so proud of her." There was a pause. "Okay," Daniel said. "Is dinner going to be ready on time?" She sat in her car for a long time after that call. The joy drained out slowly, like water from a cracked cup. She watched it go. She did not cry. She simply sat in the growing dark of the parking lot and felt, very clearly, the shape of the silence that had grown between them. She drove home. She made dinner. She did not mention Lily again. But something had changed. Something small and quiet had cracked open, and through that crack, she began, without meaning to see. It was a Saturday in November when everything fell apart. Her mother had called that morning. Her mother, Helena, who Serena had been speaking to less and less, who had grown careful on the phone, who chose her words like she was walking on something fragile. Helena had called to say she was not well. Not dramatically, just tired. A little unsteady. The doctor wanted to run some tests. She said it lightly, but mothers say things lightly, so their children do not worry, and daughters who know their mothers hear what is underneath. Serena wanted to go to Asheville for the weekend. Her parents were only 2 hours away. She had not seen them in 4 months. She asked Daniel over breakfast. He was reading something on his phone. He did not look up. "This weekend doesn't work," he said. She said the doctor wants. "She's fine, Serena. Your mother is always worried about something. She's not like that. If she called, it means." He put his phone down then, and he looked at her, and the look was not angry. It was something worse. It was tired. Tired of her. Tired of the conversation before it had even started, like she was something he had already decided. I said this weekend doesn't work. She looked at him, and in that moment, in the particular quality of the silence that followed, something in her stopped. Not broke. Stopped. The way a clock stops. The way breathing stops for just a second before you remember to start again. She nodded. She got up. She washed her own plate. She went to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall and felt something she had not let herself feel in years. Rage. Not the hot, sharp kind. The cold, quiet kind. The kind that lives so far down it takes years to surface, and when it finally does, it is perfectly, terribly clear. She thought about the green notebook in the drawer. She thought about Deb, who she had not called in 8 months. She thought about her mother's voice that morning, careful, light, trying not to be a burden. She thought about Lily winning that competition, and Daniel asking if dinner would be ready on time. She thought about room 14, the yellow walls, the jars of brushes, the music during free drawing time, and how it was the only place in her life where she still recognized herself. She sat on that bed for a long time when she heard Daniel in the kitchen, moving easily, making himself coffee. Unbothered, she made a decision. Not the big one. Not yet. First, the small one. She picked up her phone. She called her mother. She talked for 2 hours. She did not keep her voice low. When Daniel appeared in the doorway, looking at her with that flat, tired expression, she looked back at him and did not look away. It was the first time in a long time. He said her name, a warning in it. "I'm talking to my mother," she said. Simply, clearly, like the words had been waiting in her throat for years. She turned back to the phone. She heard him leave the doorway. She heard him go downstairs. She stayed on the phone until her mother's voice got warm again. Relieved, surprised, and by the time they said goodnight, something had shifted in Serena's chest. Something small had moved. Not back into place, into a new place, a better place. She lay in the dark that night and listened to the silence of the house, and she understood, for the first time, without softening it or explaining it away, this was not love. This had not been love for a long time. And she could not stay. The weeks that followed were the hardest she had ever lived through. Not because he shouted. He did not shout. What he did was worse. He grew colder, more distant, more certain in that terrible way of his. He made her feel, without a single raised voice, that she was the problem. That her feelings were too large, her needs unreasonable, her unhappiness a kind of selfishness. She began to doubt herself. That was the part she was most ashamed of later. Not that she had stayed, but that she had believed him, even at the end. Even when she knew. She started talking to Deb again. Quietly, at first, a text, then a phone call, then a long afternoon in a coffee shop 3 towns over, because she did not want to be seen by anyone who might mention it to Daniel. She told Deb everything. All of it, years of it. Deb sat across the table and listened. She did not say "I told you so." She did not fill the silence with advice. She just sat with Serena in it, until Serena had said everything there was to say. Then Deb reached across and put her hand on Serena's hand and said, "You know what to do. You've known for a while." Serena looked at the table. "I'm scared," she said. "I know," Deb said. "Do it scared." She did not leave that day. Or the next. She went home. She made dinner. She moved through the house carefully, quietly. The old way, the safe way. But something was different now. Something had been said out loud, and said things could not be unsaid. The walls of the house felt thinner. The silence felt more honest. She pulled the green notebook out of the drawer one night while Daniel was downstairs. She turned it over in her hands. The cover was still soft, still worn. She opened it to a blank page. She did not write a list. She drew instead, her hand moving without a plan, just moving, the way it used to, before she learned to hold herself still. She drew the mountains at the edge of Asheville. She drew her mother's kitchen. She drew a door, standing open, with light coming through it from the other side. She looked at the drawing for a long time. Then she wrote one sentence underneath it, very small: "I still know who I am." She spent 3 weeks quietly preparing. She did not tell Daniel. She told almost no one. She called her mother, who cried and did not try to hide it, who said, "Come home, just come home, we'll figure the rest out." She talked to Deb, who helped her think through the practical things, with a calm, practical love that Serena would be grateful for the rest of her life. She opened a bank account of her own, the first in 7 years that had only her name on it. She did this on a Tuesday lunch break, in the bank 3 streets from school, and when the woman across the desk handed her the new card, Serena held it in her hands for a moment and felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt like a person with a future. She did not take much. She did not want much. Some clothes, her teaching materials, her green notebook, a small watercolor set she had kept hidden in the back of the hall closet because the smell of paint irritated him. And her name. She was taking her name back too, her name before his. She had not decided this consciously, but she knew it, the way she knew all the important things, quietly and completely. The night she chose to leave was a Thursday in late January. It was past midnight. Daniel was asleep. The house was as quiet as it always was. She sat on the edge of the bed one last time and looked around the room. The furniture she had not chosen, the curtains she had not wanted, the life that had been shaped, slowly and completely, around what someone else needed. She stood up. She picked up the bag she had packed quietly over the previous week, carried piece by piece to the car, so nothing was noticed. She was calm in a way that surprised her. Her hands did not shake. She walked down the hall, past the bathroom with the broken towel rack, past the spare room that had once been going to be a studio, before she stopped painting. She walked quietly, but not, she realized, because she was afraid. Because it was midnight, and she was considerate, and that was who she was. And who she was had nothing to do with him. She went downstairs. She took her coat from the hook by the door. Her coat, the one she had bought herself before she even met him, warm and slightly too big, that she had always loved. She put it on. She opened the front door. Cold air. Dark sky. The neighborhood quiet and still. She stepped outside. She did not look back. She drove through the dark for 2 hours with the radio off. Just the road, just the headlights, just the mountains getting closer as she moved toward them. She cried somewhere around the first hour, not the desperate, painful kind. The releasing kind, the kind that feels like putting something very heavy down after carrying it for so long you had forgotten you were carrying it. By the time she pulled into her parents' driveway, it was past 2 in the morning. But the porch light was on. Her mother was standing at the door before Serena even got out of the car. Still in her robe, had probably been waiting for hours. Serena walked up the porch steps, and her mother opened her arms, and Serena walked into them, and stood there, 34 years old, a half-empty bag in one hand, 2 hours of dark road behind her, and let herself be held. She did not have to explain. Not that night. That night, she just came home. The first weeks were not easy. She would not remember them as easy, and it would not be honest to say they were. She slept in her childhood bedroom, which still had a small shelf of art books from high school. She woke up at 3 in the morning sometimes, heart racing, the old habit of listening for footsteps, for a mood, for a signal about how the day would go. It took time for her body to understand that the house was safe, that the silence here was just silence, warm and ordinary and hers. She returned to school on a Monday. She walked into room 14, and the yellow walls were the same, and the jars of brushes were the same, and the soft music played during free drawing time. And 20 minutes in, a boy named Caleb, 11 years old, stubborn, brilliant, held up his painting and said, "Miss Mills, is this good?" And she looked at it and she said, "Caleb, this is extraordinary," and she meant every single word. She started painting again at home, in the evenings, at the kitchen table, while her mother made tea and her father read quietly nearby. Simple things at first, color studies, small experiments. Her hands remembered before her mind did. She called Deb every Sunday. She called her mother every Sunday too, the old habit reclaimed. She bought a new green notebook because the old one was full now. She started making lists again, books, places, small things she wanted to try. The lists felt different now. Not like planning around someone else's life, like building her own. She got an apartment of her own in April, small, with tall windows and a kitchen she painted a deep, warm yellow. Because she could, because she wanted to, because no one would look at it and find it irritating. The morning she moved in, she put the watercolor set on the windowsill in the light. She stood back and looked at it. Just a small wooden box, nothing dramatic. But it caught the morning sun and glowed a little. She took a breath. She was 34 years old. She had a half-painted life and a full green notebook and a room with yellow walls and everything. Everything, still ahead of her. She sat down in the light and she opened the watercolors, and she began. If you have watched Serena's story and felt something move inside you, a recognition, an ache, a quiet anger on her behalf, or perhaps something closer to your own chest than you expected, then this part is for you. Not for Serena. She has already found her way. This part is for you. The first thing Serena's story teaches us is this: losing yourself does not happen all at once. It happens in small moments. A notebook put in a drawer, a phone call made quieter, a friend seen less and less. Each small thing feels manageable. Each small loss feels like love, like compromise, like maturity. But compromise that only moves in one direction is not compromise at all. It is erosion. If you look at your life today and you struggle to remember the last time you did something simply because you wanted to, that is worth paying attention to, not with panic, with honesty. The second thing is this: the room that keeps you is worth noticing. For Serena, it was room 14. The yellow walls, the brushes, the students who needed her to be fully herself. That room was the last place where she was completely, undeniably Serena, and it quietly kept her alive in ways she did not understand until later. You have a room like that too. Maybe it is a literal place. Maybe it is a creative practice, a friendship, a quiet habit that no one else knows about. Whatever it is, protect it. Go to it. It is not a small thing. It is the thread that leads you back. The third thing is perhaps the most important, and it is the thing Deb said that changed everything. Do it scared. Serena was afraid. She was genuinely, physically afraid the night she walked out. Her hands should have been shaking, and her heart should have been loud, and the driveway should have felt impossibly long. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is carrying a half-empty suitcase into a cold night and not looking back, even when every part of you wants to. You do not have to feel ready. You do not have to feel certain. You only have to take one step. The steadiness comes after, not before. It comes from the walking, not from waiting until the fear is gone. And the last thing, the thing I want you to carry with you long after this video ends: Serena's bag was not even full. She thought, for 7 years, that she had built something too large to leave, that the life she had was too established, too complicated, too real to walk away from. But when the night came and she packed what actually mattered, it fit in one bag she carried with one hand. This is true for many of us. The life we are afraid to leave is often smaller than the life we are afraid to begin. You are not too old. You are not too far in. The yellow walls, the open door, the morning light on a windowsill, these things are still possible. The only question is whether you are willing to walk toward them. One step, even at midnight, even scared, even alone, because the woman who walks out the door is not losing her life. She is finally beginning it. Auryn Tales, for every woman who is still finding her way home to herself.